Do I catch one on the first cast?
After what I saw this morning, no.
He's just trying too hard right now.
It's all about having fun.
Little one. Let's let some wine.
First cast.
Not a big one, but hey, it's still a bass.
So guys, a little bit different video for you today. We cover so much about habitat and wildlife, but we're with our good friend Todd Watts, who's kind of a pond guru, and we're going to cover some of the things that we see, or he sees, with recreational lakes and ponds. So Todd, give us 3 tips on recreational pond and lake management.
3 tips. Well, the number 1 tip I would say, and it's probably 95% of the ponds in America, is they're overcrowded.
Okay.
And bass in particular, or all game species, will very quickly eat up their habitat, and they'll eat their food supply. So if you go around many of the ponds in America, you'll catch a lot of bass, but they'll all be skinny. So the number 1 rule is take bass out. And when you think you've taken enough bass out, take twice as many. And don't take them to another person's pond and give them the same problem you just had. Get them out. Now there's a lot of scientific ways to judge which class to take out, what size class, and there's some ways to tell by relative weights and so forth. But generally speaking, take your skinny ones out, and if you do catch a big fat one, leave it in.
There you go.
That's number 1 problem.
And that goes with deer management. A lot of times
Same
you
thing.
see people with too many deer, and they don't
Same
want to
thing.
take, and they'll shoot deer, and they think, okay, I'm good. But
Right.
usually they don't do it enough.
That's right.
What's number 2?
Number 2 is during the stocking process. It happens a lot. They stock the wrong species. They might, and because you have to stock just for your goals, just like in deer, you have to manage for your goals. If you want a trophy bass pond, you've got to keep the population low, and you have to stock the right species. For example, if you want a trophy pond like this is here at Lake Mickey, you don't want to have too many game species. In other words, you don't want to put crappie and perch and bass and smallmouth and walleye and all that in one pond, because they all compete for the same food source.
Yeah.
So we only stock bass and bluegill in here, and bluegill are the forage species for the bass.
Gotcha.
So stocking improperly for your goals is probably the second most problem. The third problem you see is in the construction of a pond. Most ponds in America are built like a bowl. They're just void of all structure and void of all cover and things like that.
Dam up one little ravine.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's the way 95% of all ponds in America have been built for decades. And rightfully so for some reasons, because if you're feeding cattle or something, you don't want them stepping on rocks and sticks to hurt them and so forth. But if you don't have a livestock pond and it's a fishing pond, it needs to have cover, structure, underwater islands, underwater holes, ridges, trees, rocks. Just like in the deer world, you need to have saddles and different terrain.
Yeah, diversity.
Diversity, and it's the same under the water. So when you build a pond, think like a fish. If you were a fish and you were trying to escape a predator, would you want to just be swimming out in the open like a deer running in a fescue field?
Yeah.
Or would you like to have cover and places for the little fish to hide and thrive so they can get big, so the big bass can eat them and then we can eat the big bass?
There you go. There we have it. So 3 tips, and they're common mistakes, and hopefully everybody can learn from that. And even guys that have recreational ponds that haven't even begun the process, they can use those tips to improve it. So there you go.
Thank you.